Making amends is quite possibly not what you think it is. However, it may be one of the most powerful things that you ever do within your lifetime, because it is acknowledging a lifetime before, it is acknowledging a present moment right now, and it is taking action in the future. It is fulfilling a future of action. And this is part of the 7 video series on healing, because making an amends it's not to heal the thing outside of you, it's to show yourself that you can do the thing and make amends on a thing that you may not have done the way that you wanted to do it before. I want to stay a little bit away from did it incorrectly, corrected something, although I may say that at certain points, but I don't want you to get it twisted in that you did something bad and now you're doing something good. That field can get caught up in crime and punishment, punitive systems. It can adhere to the carceral system, which we'll talk about in another video. But the definition of making amends, before we get to it, and they're going to use the word correct in this, is the Merriam-Webster definition is to do something to correct a mistake that one has made or a bad situation that one has caused. And it's essentially, it goes further. When you make amends, you go further than just saying, I'm sorry. You acknowledge your errors, then take action to make up for what has happened in the past. Now, that second part, I believe, wholeheartedly, outside of the word errors, you acknowledge, I would say that making amends is you go further than an apology. And instead of not acknowledging what happened, you fully acknowledge what happened and take action to make up for what has happened in the past. And making up for it means you are changing the timeline. This is so powerful because you're breaking the chain, you're breaking the pattern, you're breaking what kind of part of you is expecting. And to do that is exceedingly difficult. I will say this is no simple task. This is declaring something and then following through on it for an extended period of time. It is creating unconscious competence, which when we look at the gradient of it, you go from unconscious incompetence, conscious incompetence, conscious competence, unconscious competence, if I said all that correctly. But the point being is that you're living the way you want to live without even really thinking about it. It's just automatic. You're just making it happen. And the benefits of this video is that I'm going to walk you through a real life situation that I experienced. This is me making amends with my mother. The next video is going to be me, how I made amends with my father, and the 3 things that I took away with it. The 3 amazing things that happened once I made amends with my mother. And obviously this isn't something that happens right off the bat. Why do I wear my watch in every video? I just take it off in the middle. I don't know. I don't even know why I put it up. So you have to understand that what you're going to get out of this is a story and an understanding. I'm not telling you to make amends with your mother or your father or anybody. I'm basically giving you the gold that comes from it, showing you what happens because I've done it and it's been going on for a certain amount of time. And I think it is extremely important for me to tell you how it worked out, why it worked, and what I expected going into it and how it is very different now. But there are amazing things that can happen once you make amends. And I use my mom and my dad as an example because we've talked about in this channel a lot. The people closest to you can hurt you the most. They can also love you the most. And when you defend yourself from people that can hurt you the most, you then cut off the love. You cut off the opportunity and the potential for love. And for some people, that is actually it's a fair play. I'm not here to judge those people at all. That's just kind of how it's set up, though. The people that can love you the most have the ability to hurt you the most. Therefore, if you cut out the people that can love you the most, you're cutting out the people that can hurt you the most and vice versa. And in families, it seems that family members really obviously have this ability to frustrate us the most, get on our nerves the most, love us the most, know us the most because they've known us for so long. Many of them since we were born. They knew a world when we weren't even in it. So they have this knowledge that's pretty unique. Very, very unique, if I may. And my mother and I, we had, I say had because it's past tense, she's still alive, but we had this relationship where it was very up down. Like the ebbs were very quiet. The ups were very quiet, but the downs were cataclysmic. And there were certain things said that I was just like, what is going on here? Like there's something happening to the effect where the way that we're warring with one another is not the way I've seen any other mother-son like just go like talk to each other. And there were just a lot of things happening where I was like, what is going down? Like I do not feel okay with this. And in 2020, I had hit a wall with a lot of things in my life. I hit a wall with myself in my life, and this is in February before we locked down here in this particular city for the my goodness, what is it called? The pandemic. And I ended up going. I had been thinking about going to this particular group therapy for six or 7 years. And my friend was like, hey, you should come on out. You should come on out. I said, oh, yeah, I'll do it. I'm good. And this will also link into the video about therapy that we'll talk about later on in healing. And I finally said, okay, I'll go out. Actually, I shouldn't say it like that. I finally was in enough heat. Like I was hysterical. Like I was so manic up and down. I was in this just really, really tough situation in life. I was crying every day. My anxiety was through the roof. Cortisol levels had to be like at an all-time high. I was not well. I was really not well. Wasn't eating, losing a bunch of weight. And I finally was like, okay, I'll give this a try. And in that month, February of 2020, I did therapy, one-on-one talk therapy, and then I did this group therapy. I was like, I'll try anything at this point. Really, you won't change until the current state seems more painful than the possibility of changing. And that was me in a lot of my BS for like 7 years. And I mean, we're always kind of doing some BS with ourselves if we're living inauthentically, but for 7 years, I considered this thing and I finally went. And in that, we talked about forgiveness and making amends. And I really didn't know what all that meant. I had no clue what that meant. And in those terms, it wasn't like, I've heard some people refer to this when they go to other like big group therapies, they refer to it as emotional sobriety. But this was just like, hey, you should probably speak to people that you feel you may need to say something to, like what if something happened or whatever. And like, would you want these last moments to be y'all's last moments? And I was like, absolutely not. So I spoke to a few people, but one of them was my mother. And off the bat, me and my mother, we talk all the time. So it wasn't a tough thing to call her and be like, hey, I want to talk to you. And making amends wasn't necessarily me owning up to something I had done or something she had done. It was calling out, because I want to state first off what this amends was. It was me calling out the way that her and I have been with one another, the way that we had treated each other, and that it could no longer sustain that way. I couldn't have it in my life anymore. I knew that if I were to have children, I couldn't be like, hey, yeah, let's go to grandma's house and like slap a smile on my face. I was like, this wasn't any, as we spoke about earlier, this wasn't any means of stonewalling or any means of putting a healthy boundary on anything. The healthy boundary came later, but I had to state, hey, this is off. So as we talk about a lot in this channel, first thing's awareness. I just pointed it out. I said, hey, this, that, and the third are off. Those are things that I don't want in my life anymore. And I know that you and I not having them anymore and upgrading ourselves is only going to make this connection better. And so I called those out, which was not easy, and which came with a fair amount of, oh, you want to talk about that, huh? And I got defensive too. We both got defensive. Like there was a fair amount of defensiveness in that initial strike up. And that is perfectly normal. And I didn't go in there to not have any defensiveness and have everybody just be kumbaya and be like, man, you got a great point. Yeah, let's just upgrade together. No, it's tough. And my mother is obviously over twice my age. So she's like, who do you think you are? Like, and I get it. And so we had to rough it out. And I had to say, no, this is actually a thing that's happening. Like, and I get that you're upset about it. I've been upset about it. We've both been upset about how this connection is going. The quality of this connection is not serving either of us. And so the first thing that happened from that, the first step that we took was acceptance. And that's the first thing that I took. I accepted that the outcome of this discussion or what I have to say may not go the way that I want it to. But it being said is more valuable than whatever the outcome is that I could imagine. And the other thing that I really declared with myself is that I'm close with my mother, and to heal with her meant to give her the absolute truth without regard for the outcome. I owed that to myself. I owed that to her. I wanted, I shouldn't say owed, I wanted to give that to the situation. I wanted to give that quality of conversation to our connection. And I only knew that we were going to be better for it. That's one amazing thing that happened. And that, in that acceptance, that has been that's been an element throughout the rest of our connection. That's just the way it's been. Her and I do not operate without that acceptance. The second thing that happened is I stopped taking our time for granted. Now, I learned this with my grandmother very quickly, but it happened so fast that by the time my grandmother passed away, it was almost like a batter at the pitcher mound. I was just like, whoa, what? Next thing I know, I'm out. We're done. The bleachers are clearing out. And that's not something I want to have with my mom or other people or other friends. Again, my mom is an example. And having this conversation, making amends, or the attempt to make an amends, put a timestamp on our relationship by saying, this day forward, everything will change. There's nothing that can be the same about it because we're having this conversation about the state of our state. Like, we can't ever go back to just being like, oh, whoop-de-whoop, we just won't talk about that, because we're having the conversation right now. And it can never be the same. And by putting that timestamp on it, it kind of got the clock. The clock was ticking. It was like, hey, we're here to enjoy as much time as we have together. And that's kind of the name of the game. We remembered that we had this conversation, and so neither of us will have to repeat ourselves. So here we are. Boom. Done. And that's a little bit terrifying. It's a little bit scary when that happens. And that's totally understandable, because you're coming to grips with the mortality between you and somebody that you love. And that is not an easy thing to do. However, I feel it's a necessary thing to do to really fully engage and, share time and life and space with that person. And it also set an anchor with this, stop taking our time for granted. It set an anchor where we could always source back to this conversation where the healthy boundaries stem from. We back to this conversation, February 2020. This is where the healthy boundaries come from. And this is where they're going to start. And this is how it's going to go going forward. And although my mother can be a very, very skilled person at discontinuation, there could be like a blowout. Like my family, I think a lot of families, sometimes a coping mechanism is to just kind of disappear it. So it's not just my family. I won't speak to them specifically, but I've seen a lot of people do it. It's like where they, we just won't talk about that anymore. We'll pick it up some other time. And when you have an amends, you have like an actual boom, we're making amends, I'm talking to you about this, you're able to erase this whole idea of discontinuation, because it is so bright, it is so, it's so there, it's so alive and present and loud that you can't hit it with any discontinuation. You can't hit it with the Uno reverse, okay? It's just boom, right there. And so it's happening. And for somebody to not acknowledge it a day later would be extremely intentional. And you both would have to, acknowledge that then. The third amazing thing that happened, and I already mentioned this, was I was able to love my mother I was able to love my mother to the fullest. And it was to a level I didn't think that was possible. Like, I didn't know my heart was capable of that. And I knew this was going to get somewhat emotional. I didn't know this one would. But it wasn't about how she was going to respond to it. It wasn't about if she was going to, agree with everything I was saying or acknowledge everything I was saying. I mean, the acknowledging part is there's no agreement. It's just like, can we both acknowledge that, there's something off here and that we can do better? It wasn't even about that. It was just like, I then opened up this like superpower in me to be able to recognize that I'm capable of loving without condition. Like there's no BS to it. There's no, as my friend that took me to group therapy said, there's no jive to it. There's no game to it. And the game just like, whatever that was, or, like, well, she said the last mean thing to me, so she got to come out and say sorry to me. I'm not rolling up and like, just talking to her. All that stuff just disappeared. It disappeared, all of it, man. It was all just gone. And I was then, without that there wasn't this worry about being hurt. There was just the focus on serving. So the focus on being compassionate. And I didn't think I was able to love to that extent or capacity with my mother and be, in a absolutely open and honest conversation just about the quality of our connection. And that was something that was just something I did not expect. So it really, as I've written here, I was able to love her to the fullest. Not because she knew how I felt, but because I knew how I felt and where I stood on our relationship. And so it's almost like you are showing yourself. We would talk about this when we go to the gym or we train. We're like, oh yeah, there's these benefits of and these byproducts of you become this and that and the third. But also what you're doing, you're showing the world, oh, I'm strong, but you're also showing yourself that you can do tough things. And I showed myself that I could do this wildly, perceivably impossible thing that it was able to do. And from then on, that lent to everything else in my life. So making that amends, it wasn't necessarily being like, hey, I did wrong, or you did wrong, or we did wrong, and now I know we can do better. It's saying the quality of our connection has been this in the past. I want it to be better. I want it to be different, maybe. I want to be more honest. I want to put a healthy boundary here. I want us to use unmarked language. I want us to know that regardless of the argument we get into, less than 48 hours later, we'll text or something like that, whatever it may be. Like I want to acknowledge all the mess that's happened up till now. I want to acknowledge all the weird stuff that's happened up till now, all the arguments, all the whatever it is, because I love you and I want to have a bigger relationship and connection with you, like a deeper honesty with you, a deeper authenticity with you. And I know that we can do that. And once I was able to do that with my mom, somebody that I've known my whole life, obviously, it was able to lend to everything else. Every single thing else. So those are the three amazing things that happened when I made amends with my mother. And the next video, we'll talk about me and my dad, which is an entirely different situation. It's not the same. It's not the same at all. And we'll run back over these three takeaways. In making amends with somebody, and three amazing things that can happen are: one, you come to an acceptance. You are less concerned about the outcome than you are about the process. And you are only there to accept the situation for what it is, finally and wonderfully as you can. And the second thing is you stop taking time for granted. You know that there is a finite time that you have with this person on earth, and you do not take it for granted. And in doing that, you might and maybe will operate a little bit differently. And the last thing is that you're able to show yourself that your heart can love fuller and deeper than you ever imagined. It really, really can. It really can. And it's a beautiful thing once you realize it and it happens. So if you choose to make amends with somebody, I wish you the best of luck on that. And I don't even think you need luck. Just attempting to do it is going to be a beautiful thing. So if you choose to do it, yeah, good on you. If not, good on you. This is just one short story of how it worked out. And in the next video, you'll hear another one. We'll see you later.